Discover the incredible moment a black CEO exposed hidden racism and cancelled a $7.8 tech merger. Jamal Carter stood tall in the heart of Silicon Valley, a powerful figure racing against history and the echoes of his own past. Raised in an inner-city neighborhood, he was molded by his grandmother's fierce love and unyielding belief in hard work. Every Saturday, she had gathered him close, sharing little stories, tales of those who fought and lost, but mostly tales encouraging resilience. Now, as a 38-year-old CEO on the brink of a monumental $7.8 billion merger, Jamal felt every bit of that gravity on his shoulders. His dream was not just about corporate success, it was about uplifting his community, those who had sacrificed everything for him to rise, but the air around those glass towers felt heavy as Jamal navigated the back corridors of power. There were whispers, subtle jabs of exclusion hummed like background static. He caught sidelong glances from executives who saw him not as a counterpart but as a figure merely fulfilling a stereotype. The doubt they wore like a badge made his chest tighten. Yet he thought of his grandmother, her stories swirling in his mind, igniting a fire within his heart. Then one ordinary evening, an unsettling discovery shattered his focus. Hidden within an innocuous report lay brittle patterns of racial bias stitched deeply into the company's very fabric. Friendships he thought were strong began to fray as he confronted those he considered allies, grappling with the truth that they, too, were ensnared in this toxic network. As he pieced together the ugly puzzle, his ambition transitioned. It was no longer just about a merger, but a fight for dignity and acknowledgement against a tide of injustice. The urgency bubbled. Flanked by uncertainty, Jamal called a community meeting. Faces lit up with hope and worry. The room became a crucible, filled with the laughter of children echoing through his memories, hearts brimming with potential change. This wasn't just his moment, it was theirs, too. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as Jamal took a deep breath to reveal the uncomfortable truth, a shocking revelation hit him like a thunderbolt. A trusted associate had been feeding him the manipulative narratives all along. Whispers of betrayal and a jaded friendship flooded his senses, and a tumultuous storm raged within him. Who could he rely on? Could he still push through for the sake of the many who believed in him? The crossroads before him loomed large. Corporate success shined bright, reminiscent of a gold-plated mirage. But it lacked the warm substance of his roots, the community that nurtured him. Here, on the brink of defining his life's path, the questions became deafening. Would he chase the shimmering glitter, or expose the dark underbelly of a system built on marginalization? The silence in the room tightened, anticipation hanging thick, as Jamal prepared to make a choice that would not only alter his life but ripple across all those who dared to dream. Every soul in attendance silently held their breath, waiting for his next words. Jamal paused, scanning the faces before him. Each one reflected a different blend of hope, anxiety, and belief. He could see the mothers, the fathers, the young adults eager for change, all waiting for him to lead them. His grandmother's voice echoed in his mind, "Stand tall, Jamal. Always choose the truth." He could feel their collective heartbeat, the unspoken trust in him to be their voice, a pulse of responsibility that was both a heavy weight and an exhilarating drive. The room was thick with silence. Then, as if finally finding his footing, he spoke. "I've discovered something that cuts deeper than business decisions or profit margins." The crowd leaned in closer. Eyes widened. "It's about our values, and the very principles we claim to uphold." He took a deep breath, readying himself for the storm. "In this company, systemic biases exist, lurking behind the facade of equality we project." Gasps echoed through the room. Jamal saw disbelief flicker in some faces, while others were nodding in recognition. "We cannot ignore this any longer. We have the power to change it, and we must." Murmurs of agreement grew, and he felt the swell of courage building around him. This merger, it's not just a financial undertaking. It's a reflection of who we are. If we move forward without addressing these issues, we're essentially building a tower upon a foundation of sand. What legacy will we leave behind? As he spoke, each word became a rallying cry. The climate in the room shifted, tension transformed into a collective sense of purpose. He continued, adrenaline fueling him. This is about more than just our careers, it's about breaking barriers for the generations to come. We owe it to our children to create an environment where they can thrive, where they aren't defined by a color but by their talent and character. After his bold declaration, the silence returned. It was soft and reverent, a moment suspended in time. But Jamal's heart raced, uncertainty seeped in. Could he truly be the catalyst for this transformation? Would the others stand by him as he challenged the very fabric of the company? Then, a voice pierced the quiet, a young woman he recognized from the community events. "I'm in, Jamal. You're right. This matters. We need to do more than just talk about change. Let us act." Another voice joined in, then another. The wave of support surged, filling the room with a sense of unity he hadn't expected. Jamal's heart soared. This wasn't just about him anymore, it was about all of them, standing together to challenge the status quo, yet, the looming shadow of doubt still hung overhead. Would the executive team be willing to listen? Would they back him when he confronted those who had turned a blind eye? As the voices around him began to chant affirmations, Jamal focused on the path ahead, but uncertainty pricked at him. What would the repercussions be from those in power? Would the fight for equity cost him everything? With a fire ignited in his gut, he made his pledge. "I promise, we will not back down. We will demand change, and together, we will create a new narrative." As the crowd erupted into cheers, filling the space with palpable energy, Jamal knew one thing was clear: this battle was just beginning. The tone had shifted, and there was no turning back now. But just as excitement began to take hold, his phone buzzed violently in his pocket. He glanced at the screen, and the color drained from his face. It was a message from his most trusted advisor. Meeting with the board rescheduled. Expect pushback. Jamal's heart raced. Would they back him in this fight, or would they see him as a threat? The wave of excitement halted as he braced himself for the unexpected. As he looked out into the crowd, their eyes gleamed with determination. It was time to prepare for what was coming next. Could he find strength in this unity against the tides of corporate complacency? The moment of truth was fast approaching, and he had to decide how far he was willing to go to fight for change. The cheers from the crowd echoed in Jamal's ears, but they felt distant. The words from his advisor loomed larger than life, filling him with a mix of dread and resolve. He could feel the weight of those expectations, not just from his own heart, but from all the eager faces in front of him. They looked to him for guidance, but he couldn't shake the feeling of impending chaos. "Jamal. Let us go. We need to prepare for that meeting," called out Olivia, the woman who had stepped forward in support. She was confident, a fire in her eyes that reminded him of the spark he had felt only moments before. He nodded, shaking himself from the fog of anxiety. He was not alone in this. "Right, let us think about our strategies." He gestured for everyone to gather closer, a makeshift huddle formed around him. The room buzzed with anticipation, the energy invigorating but also intimidating. They were ready to take a stand, but how? Jamal knew the board wouldn't go down without a fight. "Ask yourself," he began, scanning their faces again, "what do we want to change here? What will our narrative be?" Answers rose like a tide. Trust. Transparency. Accountability. The words flew back at him, each one sharper than the last. The fire inside him blazed anew. This was what he had hoped, this united front, this resonance of purpose. It was clear that they were ready to stand by him. "I need you all to keep that energy going when we face the board," Jamal declared, feeling a pulse of determination surging through him. We are not just here to complain. We're here to present solutions that matter. We're demanding a change of culture, not just policy. As he spoke, he pictured the boardroom stuffy, ambitious, a fortress of power behind polished mahogany and brass. Would they see him as the disruptor he had set out to be? Or would they brand him an outsider, a threat to their carefully constructed world? Remember, this isn't a fight against individuals, he warned. This is about dismantling a system that permits bias to fester. We will stand firm on this. His words echoed in the crowd, and he could feel their belief in him almost like a shield. But doubt nibbled at the edges of his mind. What if he lost everything? Could this lead to his downfall? The corporate world was unforgiving, its politics a labyrinth. Let us divide into groups, Jamal instructed. Some of us focus on fact-finding. Others on crafting our manifesto. We need clear points, backed with data that shows the impact of these biases not only on employees but the bottom line too. Momentum built as the crowd sprang into action. His heart raced with hope, and a spark of fear. In that moment, a message came through his phone again, this time a notification alerting him of a news article. CEO Jamal Carter threatens merger over systemic racism claims. He quickly clicked it, dread settling in. This could put me at odds with everyone, he thought. Jamal. Olivia's voice cut through his spiraling thoughts. You in there? We're ready on our end. He took a deep breath, plastering a confident smile on his face. Let us shine a light on what has been hidden for too long and let them know we're not backing down. With resolve pouring back into him, he led the group, feeling both the thrill of potential change and fear of the consequences. As they gathered their thoughts and materials, his pulse quickened. Today, they would prepare for a battle that was more about honesty than anything else, but as they walked toward the doors of the building, the reality settled heavier once again. What if this was really the beginning of something transformative or the end of his career? What was he willing to risk for a chance at a better future for so many? The answer eluded him like shadows slipping through his fingers. And then he heard it, the unmistakable sound of a boardroom in session just beyond the doors. The moment of truth loomed large before him. Would he have the courage to open that door and confront the unseen demons lurking within? Jamal's hand hovered over the door handle, his heart drumming against his ribs. Each pulse was a reminder of what was at stake. He shared a brief glance with Olivia, whose unwavering gaze fueled a flicker of courage within him. Let us show them what we stand for, he whispered, his voice barely audible amidst the din of the boardroom chatter. With a resolute push, he swung the door open. The room fell silent, a sea of sharp suits and watchful eyes swiveling in unison toward him. A long table stretched out before him, adorned with glossy reports and unread emails, a war room for corporate strategy and power plays. Jamal, the chairwoman said, her tone smooth but laced with skepticism, we were just about to start discussing the merger. He took a steadying breath, feeling the heat of their scrutiny. I'm here to talk about a different merger. One between values and actions, he responded, injecting steadiness into his voice. Murmurs spread through the room. Jamal held up his hands to quiet them. We need to address the systemic racism that has permeated our culture and the damaging impact it has on our company. A slender man at the far end leaned forward, eyebrow raised. Are you suggesting we halt negotiations based on unfounded claims? You risk everything on this supposition. No, he replied without falter. I'm suggesting that we open our eyes to the reality of experiences that exist right here, within these walls. I have data, anecdotes from employees who feel the weight of bias every day. If we bury our heads now, we will face consequences far greater than losing a lucrative merger. The chairwoman exchanged glances with other board members, tension thickening the air. Jamal could sense doubt, but he also saw the flicker of curiosity. He pressed on, his passion igniting. Imagine what we could achieve if we made transparency our foundation. We wouldn't just be leaders in technology, we'd be a model for cultural responsibility. Gathering data on feelings. Is that really something to base decisions on? Interjected another member, crossing his arms. We're business people, not social workers. Exactly. Jamal said, feeling the fire within him rise. But we're human beings first. Our people drive this company, and if they're unhappy, if they feel threatened, how can we hope to innovate? This isn't just about business, it's about humanity. It's about creating a workplace that allows everyone to thrive, not just survive. He glanced back at Olivia. She nodded, her eyes sparkling with encouragement. Jamal continued, laying out the statistics he and his team had gathered. The voice in the room shifted, hesitant murmurs turned to reluctant applause as data told a clearer story than mere words. As he reached the climax of his presentation, Jamal felt their resolve slowly slipping away. It was as if the walls around him were beginning to crack. Change is hard, I know, he admitted, softening his tone. But isn't it harder to look into the eyes of those who trust us for protection and mentorship, only to realize we've failed in our duty? Silence enveloped the room, the weight of his words hanging between them. The chairwoman leaned back, lost in thought. He pierced her armor, and he could see it reflected in the faces of his colleagues. Jamal's heart raced. Had he touched a nerve? The air crackled with possibility, profit blanks now overshadowed by morality. Could they really turn this around? Then, out of the corner of his eye, he noticed one board member furiously texting. Panic hit him, doubts resurfaced. Would he sabotage their progress? The clash of ideals, unresolved, hung uncomfortably in the room. Are you ready to stand together for change? He asked, his breath caught in his throat. As he awaited their response, both hope and dread raged within him. The room felt alive, and time seemed to freeze. Would the board see the vision he laid before them or bury it under corporate jargon? What would they choose, an old way of hiding or a bold step toward a future where everyone could truly belong? For a moment, the silence felt deafening. Jamal scanned the faces around the table. Some looked perplexed, others visibly uncomfortable, but a few showed glimmers of understanding. Then, the chairwoman cleared her throat, and everyone turned to her. Thank you, Jamal, she began, her voice steady but laced with tension. This isn't a discussion we take lightly. The implications of what you are suggesting could ripple through our entire organization. It's not just a suggestion, Jamal interrupted, urgency spilling from his words. It's a necessity. We can't ignore the reality of our own culture any longer. Trust me, I've been in the trenches. I understand how hurtful these biases can be. He could feel the collective breath of the board escaping in a shuffle of murmurs and shifting eyes. The clock on the wall ticked away the seconds, each one stealing the momentum he had built. Can we afford to lose the merger? One board member finally asked, voice cautious, as if testing the waters. It's not about the merger, Jamal replied, frustration working its way into his tone. It's about our integrity. An organization exists because of trust from our employees, our customers, our community. If we chase profit at the expense of our values, we lose everything. The chairwoman nodded, but the weariness in her eyes suggested she was far from convinced. Just then, Olivia stepped forward, her expression fierce. If we allow bias to persist, we compromise innovation. This is about more than just this moment, it's about the future of our company. And what kind of leaders do we want to be? Jamal caught Olivia's gaze, their shared conviction buoying his spirit. The members of the board exchanged uneasy glances. Maybe they were starting to see it, how the ink on the merger agreement couldn't overshadow the ink-stained hands of those who had come before them. All right, said another board member, lowering his voice. So what do we do? How do we begin to initiate this change? Jamal's heart raced again, not from fear this time but from a budding optimism. First, let us commit to a comprehensive audit of our policies through the lens of inclusivity. We must hear from all levels of the company, not just the top tier. Only then can we gauge the true spirit of our workplace. And what about our potential partners? The chairwoman pressed. They won't be happy with this delay. Olivia stepped closer to the table, determination etched on her features. This conversation will echo through the industry. If we take a stand, we set a precedent. Others will follow. We can be the leaders who dismantle harmful systems. She paused, letting her words settle in. The board seemed divided, energy pulsing in contrasting directions. Some looked inspired while others remained entrenched in fears. What if I told you that delaying this merger could save us more than we could possibly lose? Jamal posed softly, his heart swelled with hope. It's a chance to redefine what it means to succeed. The chairwoman leaned into her hands, staring down at the glossy report scattered before her, as if searching for an elusive answer. Your passion is commendable, she finally said, but we need more than just ideals. We need a tangible commitment from the company. Jamal nodded, knowing he needed to keep pushing. Let us draft a partnership with outside experts. There are organizations willing to help us establish a path toward real change. All it takes is the willingness to start. As hesitations morphed into guarded enthusiasm, Jamal could sense the tide shifting. They were leaning toward the vision he had laid out, yet uncertainty hung like a cloud. Could he really lead them into this new era of transparency? Would they stand behind him, or would this moment fade into nothingness? Let us make history today, Jamal declared, his voice rising with fervor. Or let us at least begin to lay the groundwork. There was a shift in the boardroom's energy, a crackling anticipation filling the air. Before the chairwoman could respond, the door swung open violently, and a figure burst into the room, eyes wild. Breathing hard. I need everyone to listen. We've got a situation. Jamal's stomach dropped, uncertainty crashing over him once again. What now? Would everything they just built come crumbling down? The figure at the door was Mark, the VP of Operations. His face was flushed, and he appeared frazzled, as if he had emerged from a storm. Jamal's heart raced as Mark's words hung in the air, charged with urgency. What kind of situation? Jamal asked, his voice steady despite the rising tide of panic inside. Mark stepped further into the room, hands gripping the edge of the table for support. A video has leaked. It's gone viral. An employee recorded a meeting where some of our higher-ups made biased comments about hiring practices. People are enraged. Gasps echoed around the table, and the chairwoman's usually composed demeanor cracked. How bad is it? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Very bad, Mark replied, cringing slightly as if the weight of the moment was pressing down on him. The backlash is growing by the minute. We're facing accusations of institutional racism. Jamal felt the air thicken, pushing against his chest. This was not what he wanted, what he needed. His vision for change was being hijacked by fear and public outrage. He exchanged glances with Olivia, who looked equally concerned. Have we made a statement? Olivia asked, her voice firm yet probing, as though testing the waters. Not yet. But we need to act fast, Mark insisted. The media is already circling. If we don't respond, it may appear as if we're trying to cover it up. And if we don't get ahead of this, our merger will be the least of our worries, the chairwoman added, dread creeping into her voice. Exactly, Mark affirmed. We need to show that we're serious about addressing these issues. This could break us. A wave of determination surged through Jamal. They could turn this crisis into an opportunity. We need to reveal our commitment to change, not just react. Let us show the world we're taking this seriously. What do you have in mind? Mark asked, curiosity sparking in his eyes. We can organize an open forum, Jamal suggested, his heart pounding with each word. A place where any employee can speak up, share their story, where we really listen. Then we can present our plan for inclusive practices to ensure this never happens again. But what about the merger? The chairwoman interjected, anxiety creasing her brow. Will that go on hold? Jamal took a breath, understanding the chaos that surrounded them but unwilling to back down. It may have to. But if we do this right, it will strengthen our position in the long run. We have to tackle this head-on. We can't pretend everything is fine. A silence filled the room, a moment where everyone processed the stakes. The tension twisted like a rubber band, ready to snap. Could this really be the turning point they needed? Suddenly, Mark broke through the stillness, a spark of resolve flaring in his expression. What if we also enlist allies from the community? Get them involved. If we want to show that we mean business, we can partner with organizations that advocate for diversity and inclusion. Jamal nodded vigorously, excitement igniting in his chest. That's it. Let us bring in voices that matter. But uncertainty dug back in. Would they truly come together in the fight against bias? Or would fear tether them to the past? Can we pull this off in short time? The chairwoman asked, eyes wide, wrestling with doubt. Let us try, Jamal replied, passion igniting his voice. Our response can reflect our commitment to change. It's about more than just a merger now. It's about redefining who we are. In that moment, they stood at a crossroads filled with hope and fear. The path was challenging, the stakes higher than ever, but if they took this leap together, they could emerge united and stronger than ever. As they began discussing the logistics, Jamal felt the weight of history on his shoulders. Would this pivotal moment spark real change, or would it just add to the scroll of a tainted legacy? The vibration in the room reminded Jamal that the clock was ticking. Whatever was about to unfold, it had the power to transform everything. How far would they go to prove they were committed to a better future? Jamal's mind raced as ideas flooded in, but the clock was ticking. We should schedule the forum for next week. That gives us time to set it up right, he said, leaning forward, channeling every ounce of passion he had. We need a lineup of leaders in the diversity and inclusion space to help us facilitate. Their voices will add weight to our commitment. Mark nodded, visibly wiping sweat from his brow. I can reach out to a few local organizations by tomorrow. We need to show we're not just talking, we're putting actionable steps in place. But what about the company response to the media? Olivia questioned. If we go dark, they'll only have the negative narrative to spin. Jamal felt the pressure. We need to control the story. Let us craft a preliminary statement acknowledging the issue and our plans to address it. Honesty will resonate more than silence. The chairwoman took a deep breath, her eyes flitting from Jamal to Mark. We'll need to be prepared for backlash, though. This isn't just about a statement, people need to see real transformation. I know, Jamal said, feeling the weight of truth behind her words. But if we create a genuine dialogue at the forum, we can gather feedback that will shape our policies moving forward. It's our time to listen. We can't just lead from the top down. Mark pushed back from the table, a flicker of hope in his eyes. What if we recorded the forum? Share it with the public later as a testament to our transparency and commitment. That's brilliant, Olivia said, her demeanor shifting from anxiety to inspiration. We can live stream it, too. It'll let our employees speak freely while we're also showing the world that we're doing something, actively. A warmth spread through Jamal's chest. The tide was turning. In moments like this, he felt their collective strength. They were not only addressing the crisis, they were building a framework for a new standard. But deep inside, doubt still gnawed at him. Were they truly ready for the confrontation ahead? Okay, let us get our tasks clear, the chairwoman said, snapping back into focus. Mark, you handle outreach for community partners. Olivia, draft the statement. Jamal, you'll organize the logistics for the forum. Yes, and let us also involve the media. We need them there, keep them accountable, Jamal added, his voice steady. As they moved through the plans, there was an undercurrent of electric energy, an emotional wave that pulsed through the room, pushing them past fear and into action. But beneath it all, Jamal felt the real challenge ahead. They would be opening a Pandora's box, lighting a fire under everything they built. What if they didn't receive the support they desperately sought? As he left the room that day, Jamal felt a surge of resolve, but the questions loomed over him like shadows. What would happen when the employees began to speak? What truths would come to light, and how would that change the company forever? The clock was ticking, but time felt different now. It was both an adversary and an ally. Jamal steeled himself, stepping into the uncertainty, aware that their next move would define not just their fate, but the future of all those who walked the halls of their company. With the stakes rising higher and the clock counting down, how far was he willing to go to confront the ugly truths hidden beneath the surface? Jamal arrived at his desk the next morning, his mind a whirlwind of thoughts. The clock flickered, reminding him of the urgency they faced. His phone buzzed with messages from Mark. The outreach to local organizations was underway, and a few had already agreed to participate. A small flicker of hope ignited in Jamal. He dove into work, focusing on the logistics for the upcoming forum. Every detail mattered. He envisioned tables arranged for discussions, chairs in a circle to foster connection, and a screen displaying their commitment to change. He imagined the faces of employees, some hesitant, others eager to share their stories. Jamal. It was Olivia, her face brightening the otherwise muted office. I've drafted the statement. Can you look it over before we send it out? He took the printed paper from her hand and scanned through the words. They acknowledged the problem, recognized their shortcomings, and expressed intent. It was earnest. This is powerful, Olivia, he said, feeling a swell of pride. Let us go with it. We need to get it out today. There was a nervous energy that buzzed in the office all day. The air was thick with determination, but also fear. As they prepared to share the statement with the world, Jamal sensed every employee's heartbeat echoing his own. Would they really support this? Would they stand together as one? As he pushed the send button, a wave of silence enveloped the room. Then, one by one, notifications chimed as colleagues began to share the statement. Each notification sent a ripple through Jamal, a mixture of trepidation and excitement. Nice job, everyone. The chairwoman's voice cut through the anxious buzz like a beacon. Now, let us focus on the forum. We need to ensure our employees feel safe and empowered. Jamal nodded, absorbing her words. Maybe we can set up an anonymous question box, too. It could help those who might be hesitant to speak up. Good idea, Olivia added with enthusiasm. That way, we can address as many concerns as possible. As the day wore on, their plan solidified. Jamal felt the excitement shift to a sense of responsibility. They were opening the door to potentially uncomfortable truths, but he knew it was time. By evening, Jamal found himself in a quiet moment, reflecting on the day's work. His phone buzzed again, this time with a notification from social media. The statement was trending. His heart raced, but not before an underlying anxiety crept in. With every like or share came potential scrutiny. What if people didn't see the sincerity? What if they questioned their motives? He was staring into the abyss, and that abyss could stare back. What would it reveal about their company, about himself? The day of the forum was inching closer, and Jamal felt the weight of the moment building. He stepped outside, seeking a breath of fresh air. As he gazed at the vast sky, filled with vibrant, shifting clouds, he reminded himself why they were doing this. It was about change, about growth. But change didn't come without challenge. Just then, Mark approached him, a knowing look in his eyes. You holding up okay? Yeah, just wondering what lies ahead, Jamal admitted. Whatever comes, we face it together, Mark said firmly. This is just the beginning. As Jamal returned to his desk, he felt a crackle of determination surge within him. They were about to embark on a journey that could redefine their very culture, but the question lingered, would they be ready for whatever truths the forum would bring to light? With the moment of truth drawing near, Jamal couldn't shake the anticipation. How would they confront the voices ready to speak out? What would they discover together? The sun broke through the horizon, casting a golden glow over the office building. Inside, Jamal could feel the electric buzz of anticipation settling in the air. Today was the day. The forum was finally here, and as the clock ticked closer to the start time, his stomach tied itself in knots. Employees shuffled in, their faces a mix of excitement and anxiety. Jamal watched as colleagues exchanged nervous glances, some huddled together, quietly discussing what might come. He tried to find his own calm amid the whirlwind. Today was about honesty, about unveiling the truths that had been left unspoken for too long. That he stood at the front of the room as chairs filled up. The light bounced off the walls, illuminating the banner they had crafted together, a statement of commitment to change. It felt both exhilarating and terrifying to him. He ran his fingers over the edges of the podium, grounding himself. "Welcome, everyone," Jamal greeted, his voice steady but warm. "Today is a big step for us. We are here to listen, to learn, and to grow." He glanced around at the faces staring back at him, the familiarity of his colleagues, mixed with an undercurrent of tension. "I know this can be uncomfortable," he continued, letting the silence stretch for just a moment. "But by confronting our issues head-on, we are choosing to make a difference. We're creating a safe space to share and address our experiences." Jamal noticed Olivia at the side, her encouraging smile reinforcing his resolve. He breathed in deeply and spoke more about the importance of fair representation and the responsibility they carried as a company, as a community. The weight of his words sank into him, each syllable pushing aside the doubt that crept back like shadows. After his introduction, Jamal opened the floor to questions. A hush fell over the room, and he prepared himself for whatever might come. At first, silence hung thick. He could see some faces turn away, others fidget with their notebooks. Then, a hand shot up from the back, a junior developer named Aaron, someone Jamal had seen around but never really talked to. "A lot of us have felt things that we were afraid to voice. I've seen how certain people get treated differently. It's hard to work in an environment where you feel like you don't belong. How can we fix this?" Jamal felt a swell of admiration. "Thank you for sharing that, Aaron. That's exactly why we're doing this. You've taken a courageous first step by expressing how you feel. Let us keep this open." More hands raised. More voices joined in, some sharing their stories of microaggressions, of feeling excluded, while others nodded in agreement, having experienced similar moments. Jamal's heart raced, but not out of fear. He felt a sense of unity rising, like waves rolling toward the shore, a willingness to engage in hard conversations flooding the room. As the forum continued, Jamal noticed the tension slowly dissipating. There were tears and laughter, moments of both vulnerability and strength. Employees shared their truths like they were shedding heavy coats for the first time. Jamal was grateful to bear witness to the breakthroughs unfolding around him. When the conference ended, the air was charged. "I can't believe how open everyone was," Olivia said, beaming. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" "It is," Jamal agreed, his heart swelling with pride. "But we need to keep this momentum going. We must commit to follow-ups, to continue to listen. This is not a one-time event." As the crowd trickled out, a sense of hope filled the room, but there was also a question lingering: could they truly sustain this level of openness? Would this vulnerability spark real change, or would it fade as quickly as it arose? Jamal cleared the remaining cups and papers, pondering the moments they had shared. Change was possible, but there was so much more to uncover. He just hoped they'd be ready to face what was yet to be said. And just then, Mark appeared again. "So, what's next? Do you think we'll dive deeper?" Jamal looked at him, determination burning bright in his chest. "Let us schedule another meeting. Let us keep this going. We still have so much to uncover." As he said those words, Jamal knew that while today felt like a victory, the road ahead was long and murky. What awaited them in the shadows? Would they be brave enough to shine a light on it together? The weeks flew by like leaves in a tempest. The open forum had ignited something deep within the company, a spark that couldn't easily be extinguished. The air felt lighter, conversations more open. Jamal had seen tears transform into determination, fear into action. Yet, with each step forward, new challenges emerged. The media had taken their story and ran, but the company still faced lingering doubts from the external world. Questions loomed large: would the merger still happen amid the turmoil? Could they truly commit to the inclusive future they had begun cultivating? Jamal stood at the forefront, but the responsibility felt heavier than ever. He watched as Olivia organized workshops that allowed employees to share their personal experiences and engage in discussions. He felt a swell of pride, seeing his colleagues rally together. They were standing at the precipice, readying for a leap into the unknown, yet, the boardroom still buzzed with skepticism. Jamal leaned against the polished conference table, scanning each face. "We've made progress," he stated confidently, sensing the collective tension. "But we have to be transparent about our setbacks. Authenticity is our only path forward." The chairwoman, still cautious, crossed her arms. "Jamal, you're asking us to navigate uncharted waters. The merger deadline is approaching. Stakeholders are buzzing, and not all of it is good." Jamal stepped closer, his heart racing. "I understand, but if we pursue profits at the cost of integrity, that could be far more damaging in the long run. We must build trust first." Then, just as Jamal was about to regain control of the conversation, one board member interjected. "But how do we ensure that this transparency translates into actionable results? How will we prove this isn't just a phase?" "It's about commitment," Jamal replied, glancing at Olivia for support. "We establish regular check-ins, feedback loops, and sustain a platform for every employee to voice concerns. Let us implement a detailed inclusivity report every quarter and share it with everyone." More heads began to nod slowly, uncertainty yielding to curiosity about the journey ahead. "All right," the chairwoman relented, "let us get the framework started. But remember, it's your neck on the line too, Jamal." As the board stirred back into discussion, Jamal returned to his seat, feeling the eruption of hope and fear collide within him. Could he maintain this momentum? He had changed the atmosphere of the company, but the commitment needed to stretch beyond walls built with glass and steel. On a gray Wednesday afternoon, the merger meeting arrived. Jamal stood at the podium, ready to present not just the numbers, but also the narrative, a story of progress, of responsibilities taken seriously. His heart raced as he locked eyes with Olivia in the crowd, hope shimmering in her gaze. "We've explored the uncomfortable truths that reside within our walls," he began, voice steady. "Change is never easy, but it is vital if we wish to succeed in a rapidly evolving world." Whispers kicked up behind him, but Jamal kept his gaze forward. "This isn't just about saying we accept everyone. It's about living that truth every day, ensuring that everyone feels they belong here. This merger is not just an expansion of business, it is the merging of values and ethics." As he presented his plan, he felt the weight lifting from his shoulders. It didn't matter if this was the end or the beginning. What mattered was the tapestry they were weaving together, one thread at a time. When he finished, a long silence hung in the air, and then something amazing happened. Applause erupted, not just polite claps, but genuine appreciation. The sound swelled around him, and Jamal closed his eyes for a moment, letting it wash over him. In that moment, he knew they were ready to embrace the change. The chairwoman stood up, nodding in agreement. "If we move forward with the merger, it must be accompanied by a firm commitment to our inclusivity initiatives. We won't compromise one for the other. We align these missions." "We will," Jamal replied, his voice full of conviction. "I will not waver in fighting for what's right for our employees, our community, and ourselves." The meeting wrapped up with promises, excitement bubbling among board members who had, moments ago, sat on the edge of skepticism. Jamal felt the fire igniting again, but something else ignited within him too, a realization of how far he had truly come. Walking out of the room, Olivia found him. "You did it. We all did," she said, clasping his arm with a bright smile. "Yeah, but it doesn't end here. Every story needs continually writing, and this is just the start." Later that evening, as Jamal left the office, he glanced at the sunset painting the sky, vibrant colors shining through the fading light. He thought of all the faces he had seen, their hope, struggles, and shared victories. They had uncovered a truth together, illuminating the path ahead. He realized that true leadership meant staying the course, even when the storms lashed out. More than anything, Jamal Carter wasn't just a CEO anymore. He was a light in the shadows, a voice for those who had fought to be heard. And he knew, no matter what lay ahead, that he and his team would stand united, transforming not just a company but a community ready to blossom in the rich colors of possibility. This was their moment, and every moment thereafter would echo with their commitment. Now, if you felt the transformation unfold, if this journey resonated with you, don't wait. You need to subscribe now to witness the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes a difference. Comment below with your reactions, feelings, and your thoughts on Jamal's incredible journey, and share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative story. This is the moment to show your support.